Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everyone, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I want to highlight Dynamic Forces real quick. Hop on over to Dynamic Forces. They got great collectibles and comics available for sale, signed books, remarked books, sketches, all that kind of stuff, right? But I do want to point out that right now, they got some really nice exclusive limited edition covers to Stray Dogs Dog Days issue number 1, including this fantastic Evil Dead 2 movie poster homage cover that I absolutely love. You can get signed copies, you can get non-signed copies. Check them all out at dynamicforces.com at the link in the description below or right up here in the video. And of course, remember to use the code Robbie at your cart. You'll save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Primordial issue number 6 from Image Comics, the stunning conclusion to this epic sci-fi psychedelic series by writer Jeff Lemire, artist Andrea Sorrentino, colorist Dave Stewart, letterer Steve Wands. I believe it's Steve Wands. I love this book. Primordial has been something that I have absolutely loved. A little bit of We 3, a lot of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and especially with the conclusion, we're really veering into that comparison, right? I loved it. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going to read this and either be like, I don't get it, or that happened way too fast. I think when you look at all 6 issues put together in a graphic novel format, I think this is going to be a wild, cool sci-fi experience on the comic book page. I actually read this issue 3 times in a row today to make sure that I didn't miss anything, and there's not much to miss. Like, what is there is what happens, and I absolutely loved it. Like I said, if you didn't necessarily like, say, the ending of a 2001: A Space Odyssey, maybe this one might not be quite for you, but if you've been enjoying this series so far that does so much with so little, talking about the emoting of the animals, because it's about, you know, Laika and Abel and Mrs. Baker, the animals that were sent out into space, and in this world they confronted or were abducted or were changed, metamorphosized, if you will, by some kind of advanced intelligence out there, and then they come back to Earth. What is their purpose? You find out here. I love this book. I thought the artwork was amazing. The use of different technologies, the use of different techniques and styles blending together to make one, to me, cohesive, crazy concept, and just a wonderfully executed comic book. Primordial number 6, my pick of the week. What'd you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Then we got Rain, issue number 2. This is also from Image Comics. This one is based on a Joe Hill story. The script is written by David M. Boer, artwork by Zoe Thorogood and Chris O'Halloran on the coloring. I really liked the first issue of this. It blew me away. It was my pick of the week because this is a story about all of a sudden these crystal nails, these crystal shards start falling from the sky and they kill people, like, massively. In the first issue, we get introduced to some characters and most of them die. So in such a short span of time to introduce the characters, make me care about them, and then have me feel the effect of their loss, that was magnificent for issue 1. Issue 2 carries that momentum forward. It does get a little overly verbose in parts. I don't know if that's necessarily Boer or if that's part of the Joe Hill prose story originally, but it did kind of get bogged down a little bit that way. However, the events that happened, the way that this picks up from the end of the last issue, the way it continues the story, it has an emotional core, it's got a strong narrative thread running through it. I'm really liking this story, really liking the artwork. Issue 2, not quite as solid, I would say, as issue number 1, but still a top-notch comic of the week, Rain number 2. Then we got Homesick Pilots here with issue number 12. This series is bonkers. Written by Dan Waters, artwork by Casper Wingard, lettering by Aditya Bidikar. I love this book. It's wild. So it's about ghost-powered technology that the government's trying to get a hold of, and then a punk rock band has a hold of it too. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about like mechs that are powered by ghosts. And one of them's like a big haunted house. And there's like this crazy fight that's going on, and then there's a side mission, right? But unlike certain movies or other stories where you have a side mission and it completely detracts from the actual story and the thread and the thematic material, That does not happen here. Dan Watters is able to effortlessly throw in the thematic material, illuminate it a little bit in the darkness, and do it in such an interesting, well-crafted job that instantaneously brings me into this character's point of view and perspective and helps me understand and recontextualizes some things about certain characters in this series. I love this book. I think it's great. It's overall, it's about trauma, how to weaponize that, how others want to weaponize it for you, and how you can weaponize it for yourself. I love it. And the struggle between the corporate and the rebel. I freaking love this book. Homesick Pilots, issue 12. Bonkers. Then we got the Silver Coin, issue number 9. The Silver Coin has been hitting issue to issue to issue. Like in the first arc, there were a couple that didn't quite work for me, but some of them did. But then, and the latest like string of like 4 to 5 of these have been really freaking good. And then this one, it's just okay. Like the artwork is solid. The story, what it's about, is okay. This dude comes across the silver coin. Each issue is written by a different writer. If you're not familiar, they all revolve around this cursed silver coin that winds up in someone's possession, and then things don't go really well for them. Now, this is just a kind of it's not a bad story, but it is just simply like kind of like a morality tale. It's all right, but it didn't quite grab me the way that some of the others did. It's not necessarily bad. This one's written by Vita Ayala. I like their work for the most part. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's really good. This one is just kind of decent for me. But Silver Coin number 9 was a slight disappointment because that series has been hitting on all cylinders in the last several months. Then we got King Spawn here with issue number 7. I'm loving King Spawn. This book is wild. It's ridiculous. It's fun. It's my favorite of the Spawn books. Javi Fernandez is still in the art here, but I feel like he's doing breakdowns or layouts or something, and you got another cat coming in, Thomas Notchlick, and there's some moments where it just doesn't feel art-wise as crisp or as exciting as the previous 6 issues. Story-wise, still building up, still starting to tie in a little bit more with what's going on in the larger Spawn universe right now, but this maintains to me the strength of being the most solid Spawn title right now. I am having fun with this run. It puts some interesting things in a new light, especially by the end, and I'm really excited for King Spawn. King Spawn's been really fun. So issue 7, super solid. What's the furthest place from here with issue number 4? I was so lost in this book. I have found it hard to connect with characters, to understand each character's motivations, and to remember who they are. This one, you know how the series goes from chapter to chapter? This one has a lot of like quick, kind of like chapters, just like in like rapid fire, like dun 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 dun. And it's not quite working for me. The pace just felt a little bit off. I'm still liking the artwork, still loving the lettering, but story-wise, character-wise, it is still yet to grab me 4 exercise issues in. I may have to drop out of that one, just trade weight it. And I want to jump over to AWA Upshot real quick because Crimson Cage number 3 is here. This book was awesome. So Crimson Cage is written by John Lees with artwork by Alex Cormack, both friends of the show. They've been on the channel. You should check out those shows, those conversations if you haven't already. But this is Macbeth as told through like 80s territorial Southern wrestling. So you got this dude who's become the champ because he was prophesized that he would if he killed the former champ, and now he is just descending in this spiral of madness. And it comes across in the artwork, it comes across in the frantic nature of the story at times with the pacing of it, which is also kind of, I think, replicating the frantic nature of a wrestling match. I freaking love it. It gets deep, it gets gnarly, it gets effed up, it gets tragic, it gets bloody, it gets violent. Crimson Cage is everything I love about story, all in one freaking fantastic, spectacular package. Crimson Cage number 3 out this week. Let's jump over to Marvel. We got a new Iron Fist debuting. Not just a new Iron Fist series with a new number 1, but a new character is now taking on the mantle of Iron Fist. So a lot of people are going to be picking this one up to see who it is. I think a lot of us keen-sighted fans have already kind of figured out who it's going to be. The issue itself was okay. It didn't really grab my attention, didn't really do much. You know, Danny Rand fans will still find pleasure in hearing that he is still focused on throughout this book, as well as the new Iron Fist. So it may eventually become like a mentor-mentee type role. That's interesting. It's an interesting enough concept, but everything that happens so quick. It's just kind of abrupt. It doesn't really ever feel weighted or anchored into some kind of an emotional core or anything like that. And the artwork was just a bit wonky. So this Iron Fist series, so far, one issue in, I'm not very impressed. Hulk, issue number 4. I'm liking Hulk a little bit better. Yes, the concept for Donny Cates' Hulk to me is still the most ridiculous concept for Hulk. I do not care about yet another personality of Hulk on the horizon that's bigger and badder than any personality we've ever seen. I don't necessarily care about other alternate versions of this stuff going on. It feels ridiculous, like just the whole premise of this Starship Hulk thing. That being said, artwork is dope. Story is paced at a really fantastic and exhilarating rate, and I found this to be my favorite issue of Hulk so far by Donny Cates. I'm not saying that it's completely won me over. I still think the nugget of the concept is pretty dumb. However, this issue, kind of fun, kind of exciting, kind of what superhero comic books are supposed to be, so I kind of like this Hulk number 4. So there you go. Then we got Thor number 22. Speaking of Donny Cates, you gotta have both of the Donny Cates 1-2 punches coming out from Marvel, but Thor was another solid book by Donny Cates. Nick Klein's artwork a little bit more loose, a little less refined in here. He's got this kind of rougher, scratchier style at times, but it's just getting a little too, I don't know, it's just not quite as confined for me, as refined, I should say, in this one. But Thor 22 was a pretty solid story. It has some moments that we've seen before, but in this new context, in this new era, in this new story, it works. They work really well. Some big moments. Artwork was, like I said, just not quite as tight as it typically is when Nick Klein's on the book, but coloring was still there. Story was really there too. I like this one a lot. I thought it was pretty solid. Venom issue number 5. Marvel's got like their top selling books all out this week. Venom number 5. This one's written by Al Ewing. Artwork still by Brian Hitch. That's 5 issues in a row from Brian Hitch. Doing a solid job with the artwork there. Story-wise, it's Al Ewing, so it's going back to the Eddie Brock-centric part of the story, the cosmic-centric portion of the story. Ron B's doing the Earth-based Dylan stuff. Al Ewing's doing the cosmic Eddie Brock-based stuff. This is mostly about this new villain, Meridius. What's going on there? There's some timey-wimey things going on. Al Ewing handles these kind of concepts pretty well sometimes. I found the issue not to be completely exciting because it was a bit confusing, a bit just like I'm not seeing how this relates. I think I know the big twist already. I think it's kind of obvious. I hope that that's not the case. But Venom number 5, it did an interesting job of throwing back to stuff that we've seen in the previous issues and putting it in a different light. So it's interesting, but it didn't quite grab me, right? If that makes sense. So Venom number 5, cool concepts, but no emotional weight there to really ground it for me. Then we got Fantastic Four, issue number 40. This is continuing the Reckoning War story. In the Reckoning War one-shot, the moon exploded. Somebody was trying to kill the Watcher. They destroyed the moon. So, and then at the same time, all these alien races invade all these different empires and planets, and they're all weaponized with Watcher technology given to them by the Reckoning. This is something that Dan Slott's been building up to in a lot of his work. She-Hulk, Silver Surfer, and now Fantastic Four. It's finally come to fruition. But it's obvious that Marvel didn't really trust him with an event because it's just confined to the pages of Fantastic Four and a few one-shots. I'm liking the story. I think it's interesting. Reed Richards has been, in the last issue, he got all of the Watcher's memories in his head, so he's acting freaking crazy trying to figure out how to solve everything. So I really liked Reed's characterization in this issue. The artwork was okay, and it did get a little overly verbose where it kind of slowed down the pace of the book. So Fantastic Four 40, this Reckoning War story, it's decent, it's interesting, but it hasn't been as solid as Fantastic Four has been, I would say, for the last year. So we'll see what happens. Then we got the X Lives, the 10 Lives of Wolverine, issue number 3. Admittedly, I am not excited about the series. I haven't liked any of this or the deaths of Wolverine, and issue 3 was no exception. I'm not digging this story. I feel like, I mean, it's you know what's going on now. Basically, Omega Red's consciousness is being flung through time into different people's bodies trying to kill the bloodline of Xavier. And Wolverine's being sent back, split up into all these different previous lives of his to stop it. I just don't care. I am Like, I thought I was already over the X-Men books when Hickman left. I'm even more over it now. I do not like anything that's going on X-related anymore. Except for Excellent. Excellent was excellent, but that's Milligan and Allred. That's different. X-Lies the Wolverine #3. I'm just going to finish the damn book. I don't know why. Then we got X-Men #8. Another one. It was alright. Artwork was pretty decent, but story-wise, they're giving us these, like, one-and-done self-contained stories, but they're not really building anything overall with it. They're trying to get a little bit more into some character work, but it's just not working for me. It doesn't feel super cohesive, and you know what? At this point, I've done it with Spider-Man. I stopped reading Amazing Spider-Man. I felt better. I think I'm done with X-Men. Of course, I'll keep reading that damn Wolverine book for some frickin' reason. Anyway, let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Batman The Knight, issue #2, written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Carmine Dijon-Domenico. I didn't really like the first issue of this series. I saw a lot of people out there on the interwebs that liked it, and I respect that. But I didn't really like the first issue. I thought it kind of pulled too much from Batman Begins. It's Chip Zdarsky trying to give us a story that we've never gotten before, which is how Batman went into the world to train to become Batman. It's a story we've seen plenty of times. There are instances in here that we've seen plenty of times. However, in issue #2, it all kind of worked for me, right? We're introduced to this new character. I'm not familiar with this character. I don't think they've ever shown up before. It puts a new spin and a new light on some of Bruce Wayne's behavior in his run as Batman. And John Domenico's artwork, I thought, really crisped up, really refined itself, and just was really spectacular here. Backgrounds, foregrounds, midgrounds, composition, everything about the artwork, which I was really excited for in the first one, and I thought was just a bit too rough and didn't quite work very well. Really cohesive here. I love the artwork. I thought the story was interesting. So, didn't like issue #1. Rather liked issue #2 of Batman The Knight by Chip Zdarsky and Company. Then we got Nightwing here with issue #89. This was in contention for the pick of the week. Like, seriously. Nightwing has been a pretty solid book. Bruno Redondo's artwork has been spectacular for the most part. I'm getting over. There was one issue where I was really bothered by excessive use of digital screen tone, and I'm just trying to ignore it, but I'm starting to notice more and more people that use it, but use it well. For instance, Andrea Sorrentino in Primordial, Casper Wingard, and Homesick Pilots, and even Fernandez and whoever else worked on the artwork in King Spawn. I thought the usage of that stuff there was well. Anyway, here's a little bit less toned down. Nightwing 89 starts a 2-part crossover with Superman Son of Kal-El. Now, I haven't really been liking Superman Son of Kal-El that much, though the last few issues have been a little bit better. Nightwing's been pretty solid throughout. This was really solid. Now, I had a homie today tell me that works with me say, hey, I read it. Nightwing was the best issue of Superman Son of Kal-El yet. 100%. The character of Jonathan Kent comes through and through for me here in the pages of Nightwing, as well as Dick Grayson. I like this. The relationship between Dick Grayson and Jonathan Kent, how that formed, why it's there, how it's different than like the Damian Jonathan dynamic, how it's different than the Bruce Clark dynamic, I thought was really cool. So I liked the characterizations, I liked the personalities, the way they bounced off of each other. I liked the story, it had some good moments, and I'll go ahead, Blake, I'm just gonna quote you. This was the best issue of Superman Son of Kal-El yet. So thank you for that. I didn't have to credit you for that, my man. Anyway, then we got Detective Comics 1053. No, not at all. I just don't like this book. This Arkham Tower story just blows. It's so freaking structurally a mess. I don't care. This is like, I just feel like this is just like a 1 to 2 issue Batman story at most. Like Batman just goes in there, takes out, figures out what's going on, takes out. You got Huntress, as a mole. You got Dick Grayson as a mole. You got Batwoman as a... Like, what's going on? Why is this story taking so long? Why is it structurally so incoherent? Why is it just not good? Backup story's good, though. The backup story with this kid kind of coming up in Gotham, a little bit more on the rough side, coming into contact with all these different villains. I like the backup story, but the main story blows. It blows. I just do not like that. Green Lantern is here with issue number 11. I'm loving this series. I was a little bit on the fence as it was going, but in the last issue, a big revelation hit that put everything, I keep saying put everything in a new light because I keep trying not to say recontextualize. Anyway, in the last issue, big things that put that recontextualized some of the events in previous issues, and this was a big, giant, cosmic, explosive issue with a lot of concept, with a lot of heart, and a really cool core to the story that just completely pulled me in, and I am more than sold now on Jeffrey Thorne's Green Lantern run. Artwork's alright, could be a little bit better, but it is dense, and I like that about the artwork, but the story, really working for me right now, and John Stewart, Jeff's putting John Stewart on another level, and I have never liked the character more. Green Lantern, issue number 11 out this week. The Flash is here with 779. This is wrapping up this whole Eclipso Gem World story, and what I liked about this was that Jeremy Adams has been telling these two different stories, one about Wally's kids and one about Wally in Gem World, and Opal's trying to like use the Eclipso Force and all this kind of mess, right? But he brings the two stories together, so it doesn't feel so disconnected. It's actually connected, and it works. And I like this conclusion, and it sets up Wally's kids in a new position going forward that I really, really like. So I thought this was a solid issue. The artwork, when it's Pasarin, is absolutely amazing. When it's the other cat, just doesn't do much for me. And they could not be different as far as the density and complexity of the artwork, so it really threw me off visually. Story-wise, though, thought it was really solid. Then we got Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, issue number 8. Artwork, spectacular. Story, decent. It's got a pretty satisfying ending. This could have been done in 5 issues, maybe 6, but, you know, I've criticized Tom King of stretching out a story further than it wants to go. Some 12-issue series should be 8, and here's an 8-issue series. It should have been 6 or 5. That being said, I liked the conclusion. It was emotionally satisfying. It was the conclusion that this story deserved, but the pacing of this story is just not quite right for me, because I just feel like there was too much fluff in there, especially with some of the dialogue. The art has been majestic all the way through. I know this is a favorite of a lot of people's, so I respect that. I really do like the ending. I love the artwork. I just feel like this would have been better if it was like 5 to 6 issues. That's what I'm sticking with. Anyway, Aftershock Comics brings us The Lion and the Eagle. This is issue 1. This is going to be a mini-series in this Prestige Plus format, magazine size, but this is by Garth Ennis, PJ Holden, and it's Garth Ennis doing what Garth Ennis does pretty solidly and has solidly done throughout his career, tell a really damn fine war story and be able to have a nuance about a soldier's experience and what they're dealing with. Really liked it. It almost broke my heart at times, because there are moments where PJ Holden's artwork, I can see the Ditko. I don't know if he's got a Steve Dillon influence or if it's just the Garth Ennis pacing, but there are moments where I'm just like, man, if Steve Dillon was able to draw this, it would be on another level. That being said, it's pretty solid. Not as solid as the most solid of Garth Ennis' war stories, but I did like it. It's a bit pricey, $7.99. I would recommend this for hardcore war story fans, hardcore Garth Ennis fans. There you go. Then we got Maniac of New York, The Bronx is Burning, issue number, what issue is this? It's issue number 3. I'm over this series. I'm done. I really rather like the first story arc, the first 5 issues of this. I love the artwork by Muti. I think the artwork is still super solid, but I've never cared about the main characters, and that is even worse in this second volume, and all I'm doing is just trying to get through pages so I can get to Harry killing some people. And then each ending is like, it has the promise of more Harry carnage, and then they don't deliver on it, and I'm tired of it. I'm not being fooled no more. There you go. G.I. Joe, Real American Heroes, Saturday Morning Adventures, issue number 1. This is a mini-series from IDW, probably one of the last IDW G.I. Joe series that we'll be getting, because they're losing the rights to G.I. Joe and Transformers. But this is set right into the vein and the era of the 80s G.I. Joe cartoon. So if you got nostalgic memories of that, you might want to check this up, because the artwork looks like the old school 80s cartoon. The story is straight out of the 80s cartoon, like it's exactly a plot that Cobra would have, and the voices of all the characters ring true for that show. And of course, I have a fond place in my heart for that G.I. Joe 80s show. It doesn't always live up sometimes to my nostalgic reminiscing, but this was pretty fun. Basically, Cobra Commander gets Aladdin's lamp and unleashes a genie, and You got some bat action in there that's pretty freaking awesome. From IDW, we also got Canto 3, The Lionhearted, issue number 6. This is the final issue of Canto 3 before it takes a little bit of a hiatus. It comes back with another short little series, and then we're launching into Canto 4. I have loved this series. It strikes right to the core and heart of story and the hero's journey and bravery and courage and love, and that's what story is, right? And my love for story produces a love for Kanto. I love this character. I love this world. It's getting more and more enlarged, and the stakes keep getting higher. It's filled with tragedy and high stakes, but at the same time, true hope, optimism, and heroism. Canto 3, Lionhearted, issue number 6, Sword. Then we have Power Rangers here with issue number 16. This is kind of like a coda to the Eltarian War. In the last issue of Mighty Morphin, it came to a very cataclysmic conclusion. And then it had a little tease at the end, and that little tease is just a little tease. There's just a nice little scene here to kind of pick up from that cliffhanger, and then most of the rest of the issue is spent just kind of letting things resolve, letting things kind of calm down, and setting places in the positions where they need to be for the duration of the future of this book, we should say. But Power Rangers has been fun, it's been dynamic, it's been explosive, and it's been the best interpretation of the characters and the mythology ever in existence as far as Power Rangers is concerned. Then we have Red Sonja, Black, White, Red, issue number 7. I'm surprised that this kept going so long. Love that Phil Hester cover. This was probably my least favorite issue so far. The first story, Ron Mars, Mirko Kolak, that was awesome. I mean, it was okay. I really liked the artwork in that first story. The other two stories didn't really do that much for me. The art was pretty decent, but I don't know, it didn't really quite hit me as previous issues of this Red Sonja Black, White, Red anthology did. And Vampyverse is here with issue number 6. This is the conclusion, a very satisfying conclusion. This has been a pretty fun book. It's basically what you think it is. Vampyverse. Think of the One, right? So there's an evil version of Vampirella out there, and she's going to every universe to kill every other version of her so she can be the ultimate one. Her name's Bloodwinged, something like that. But this is a rather large in scale and scope conclusion of this series. I had a nice nugget of heart to it, too, that I really liked towards the end there. So Vampyverse issue 6, I really liked that series. I'm glad I checked it out. Then we got Nyx issue number 4. I'm liking Nyx. It's a book that's not taking itself too seriously, but it's also trying to dive maybe a bit shallowy, but it's diving into some things, right? So I like the book. It has fun with itself. It's sexy, it's humorous, it's adventurous, and it's pretty freaking funny. I like this book. Nyx number 4 was pretty solid. So Nyx is like half chaos demon, half human. She's trying to purge one of those sides. That conflict's becoming too much for her. And it leads her to some strange bedfellows, we should say. But anyway, Nyx number 4, another big drinking issue for Nyx. But, you know, I'm not hating that. Then we got from Behemoth, Until My Knuckles Bleed, issue number 1. This was all right. I really like the artwork in this book. And what it is all those extreme 90s comics, especially, imagine the life of a Rob Liefeld character 30 years later, once everybody's over this extreme, you know, vigilante type trend, and now it's merged in. Think of if Cable became Marv from Sin City. That's almost kind of what this is. So it's paying a little bit of tribute and respect, but all in all, the story just didn't quite gel for me. But the artwork was pretty solid. I like that. Then also from Behemoth, we have Quad, Tara and Elvis, issue number 1, Eduardo Shaw. Liked the artwork a lot in here, but the story didn't do much for me. At first, it felt like it was a zombie book, and it's not really, but it's about a world where there was this solar storm. All technology went away. It's 4 generations later. There are these mutated creatures around. It was really kind of incoherent, and it wasn't easy to follow story-wise, character-wise, but I did like the artwork. But aside from that, the Behemoth books didn't really do much for me. Like the art, I didn't necessarily find myself getting into the stories. So that's what I read. That's what I thought. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and thank you for all the support. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Station. Pop, pop, boom.